Okay, so let us begin. In the last lecture, I was talking to you about this idea of data models, right. A data model, let us briefly recall that and then proceed with the rest of the material. Basically, a data model will allow us to describe the information system or the database system at a certain level of abstraction. I want you to understand clearly is that why do you need several levels of abstraction for the information system? We need that mainly because information system is a very complex entity. It is a sometimes a large pieces of information and very detailed information is possible, description is possible, etc. So, it is a complex entity, and so we need to have a description of this thing, this entire information system at a level where it can be easily understood by the stakeholders of this information system. There are several stakeholders for this information system. First thing is the people who want it to be built and then use. So, okay, and then we have what are called, I will tell you a little later, what are called naive users of the information system, who just want to interact with the information system, just feed information and then like that. So, there are various groups of people who are interacting with this information system, and when we are collecting the requirements for building an information system, there is really no need for us to kind of expose all the internal details of how this information system is going to be organized to the stakeholders. First thing is they would not like to know, they do not want to know those details. So, we should have the ability to hide certain unnecessary details from these users and then describe the database at a level of abstraction which is comfortable for them. So, that is why we will need various, again of course, when you have to build the system itself, then we need all the details of that. So, we as computer science people would like to look at the information system in a much more detailed level, right, and so we need a different abstraction level for us. And ultimately the information system is going to be stored on a secondary storage, which is disks and tapes if necessary. If the amount of information is too huge, then we may even want to use tapes. The usage of tapes is very limited these days. But then the actual database is going to lie there in the storage medium on the disks. So, we need to understand how exactly the database is going to be organized in the form of all these as files on disk systems. So, that is a different level of detail for the. So, because there are these various levels of details at which we can describe a database system, we need different toolkits for doing that. So, basically a data model provides that toolkit, the conceptual toolkit to kind of describe the database as at a level of abstraction. So, for a high level description, we use this conceptual data models, and this is basically useful for understanding the requirements and also collecting them. For representational data models, we use representational data models to describe the database at a logical level. This is what actually we computer science people would like to use. Okay. So, this will give the full logical details about the database, and then we have also a data model that can be used to describe the full details of the record formats, file structures, everything, and that is what we normally call as a physical level data model, physical data model. Okay. So, let me spend a little bit time with each of at least the first two of these things. So, a popular model, conceptual level data model, is what is called the entity relationship model, ER model. So, what this provides is basically concepts like entities, relationships and attributes. Basically entities are things that we would like to keep track of, the important things in the information system that we would like to keep track of, and relationships basically are associations between these important entities in the information system that we would like to keep track of, and attributes are like for example the details such as the names, roll numbers, addresses of a student entity, and name, employee number, phone number of a faculty entity. These are specific attributes, and here are some examples of relationships. So, for example, the enrollment relationship between student and course. Students enroll for courses, and we would like to keep track of these associations, and the employment relationship between faculty and a specific department. Now, so the idea, it's very easy for us to kind of make use of these terms like entities and relationships and attributes. These are the conceptual tools that we will use, and then sit across with the stakeholders who want this information system to be developed, and then discuss with them what are your entities, what are the relationships you bother about, etc. And then describe that entire database in terms of these three concepts. There are a few more concepts, then we will see them when we actually discuss this model in a separate module in the course. Okay, I will give you more details a little later, but I just want to give you some idea about how is a conceptual level data model looks like. Okay. Any questions in this? Then we will move on to a popular representational level data model, which is actually the relational data model. Relational data model is going to be the central concept for this course, and we will spend a lot of time understanding this relational data model and also other details connected with the relational data model. So, to give you a brief idea about this, basically it provides this concept of a relation, and a relation is nothing but what we are familiar with in discrete mathematics course, which is a subset of cross product of sets, basically a relation. So, we are going to use that, and that will play a central role in this data model. So, for example, in the context of a university database, we can think of a relation called student. So, this is the name of the relation, and then here are the various attributes for the student relation. So, S name, roll number, the joining year, birth date, the program in which the student is enrolled for, and what is the department in which the student is studying. So, these are the attributes, and we also call that as the schema of the relation. And here is a specific pieces of data which will talk about a specific student called Sridham, who has all these details. So, we call this the entire thing as a data tuple, data tuple. Okay. And a relation is basically will consist of a set of such data tuples, set Please remember this definition, we are calling it a set of tuples, not a sequence of tuples. There is a slight difference between these two things, right. So, this is a set of tuples. A finite set of tuples will constitute our relation data instance, a relation we call that instance. So, in general relational database is going to have several relations with these kind of attributes, etc., and a bunch of these, a finite number of these relations will constitute our relational database, and we will go into much more details about this relational model when we take it up when we go into the relational data model module. Okay. Now, let us move on. Basically, I want you to understand that there is this important notion called a data model, which is a collection of conceptual tools to describe the database at a certain level of abstraction. You can see that this level of abstraction, this gives you a different tool to describe the database. This is the relation tool, whereas in the previous slide we have seen entities and relationships, we call them relationships, etc. Okay. So, please do not hesitate to stop me if you have any questions. Now, this point we have also mentioned it earlier, that the distinction between data and metadata is one of the central ideas in the database systems field, and the DBMS, database management system, basically becomes generic in nature because it is able to separate these data and metadata and then store them separately. So, when a DBMS has to deal with a particular database, okay, what it will do is to consult the metadata corresponding to that particular database, open that up in some as a and then plan to do certain modifications or whatever is required for that particular database. And that is why it is not tied to a single database, it is capable of managing several databases at a time. I will give you some more details about the architecture of a RDBMS as we go along. So, in our RDBMS relational database management system context, the schema basically, or the metadata basically consists of all these table names, and we call them table also. It is actually in the last slide I called it as a relation, right. Relations are informally called also as tables. So, names of the relations, names of the attributes along with their data types for each of these relations, and we will also see later on that there are certain kind of constraints. For example, if you put an age attribute there, you cannot put a negative number, right. So, there are certain kind of constraints about these attributes and also about table relations in general. So, all this information together is what is called the metadata or the schema information, and this will be stored separately from the data, and then whenever we have to deal with the database, we will consult this schema and then operate on the database. So, the database definition basically talks about, when you say that we are defining a database, what we mean is first designing this entire schema for the database, and then we will, when you say database loading, I mean data is getting updated, what we mean is to actually store data into this skeletal structure which we have set up. The skeletal structure is basically the tables with table names, attribute names, etc., with blanks in it. So that is what the distinction between the schema and data versus schema. This is a very central idea in database systems. Okay. So, moving on, let me take you to this interesting architecture diagram, which describes the internal abstraction levels that are available within a database management system. Now, we are talking about a database management system, specifically relational database management system, and what are the different abstractions it provides in as part of its architecture. So, this is popularly called the 3 schema architecture, and we will see how exactly what are the various things that are there here. Now, basically the middle layer is the actually the important layer, which is this logical level representation of the database. It consists of a set of relations. So, as I was previously telling you, the relational database basically consists of a bunch of relational relations, a set of relations. So, this is what is the representational data model, which is the relational data model, and the description of the database is given as a bunch of relations. Now, at a low level of detail, we have the actual data is sitting in files. There are a set of files, okay, which are actually organized in on the disk, and there are also what are called index files. Basically, index files help us to retrieve a record efficiently from a data file. A data file is the one that actually contains a lot of records in it. Each record basically is somewhat similar to your structure that you have defined as part of C programs, etc., right. So, these are records, and then we also have index files. Index files are again basically they implement some kind of a data structure, and then they will help us retrieve a data record from a data file efficiently. So, we will spend some a lot more time trying to understand what are the various kind of indexing techniques later on in the course, but right now we can just say that index files help us locate data records efficiently. So, the data is actually lying in the physical level on the disk in the form of these files, index files, and a few other things. Okay. So, that is the physical level scheme, so to say, the metadata at that level. So, the metadata here basically consists of what is a file, what is the record structure, etc. Is that record a fixed length record, or is that record having variable number of fields in it, various other details like that. So, that is the physical level scheme. So, we will come back to this diagram. Let me first take you, okay. So, at the top level is this view level. So, I have a slide for that. So, let us look at what is view level. So, view level, logical level, physical level, these are the 3 levels we are talking about. In the view level, basically consists of a finite number of views. What is a view? A view describes certain aspect of the database which is relevant to a particular group of users. Okay. A aspect of the database which is relevant to a particular group of users. Let me give you an example. For instance, let's look at the context of a library database system. Okay. If you have gone to the university library or the institute library, you would see that there is this place where issues of books, returns of books, or all of them are managed, and most of them you will interact with that particular section, because that is where you will borrow items, return items, probably pay fines and things like that. If you are delayed in returning an item, they will collect fines from you and all that, right. So that is the issue return management section. And then when new users, new students come into the campus, they need to be enrolled into the library. So there is so they have to be given smart cards, or they have to be given, their details need to be taken down, etc. So that is the users management section. You would see that it is there in a separate place. Okay. And then of course the library has a huge collection of books, and so faculty keep requesting for new books to be added to the library, etc. And so the books have to be purchased. So there is a procurement section, a complete section dedicated for interacting with the suppliers of books, placing orders for books, receiving books, etc. That you do not see, because you do not need that, right. You do not need to know, it's kind of hidden from you. But to manage a library of our kind, you can imagine that you need a separate section which will keep taking the request from the faculty, taking appropriate approvals, looking at the budget, and then placing orders, receiving books, and managing books. Once the books are purchased, then they will be stocked, and so that issues and returns can happen. And so you can see that a large, even a enterprise like a library has different groups of people who are concerned with different aspects of the same enterprise. It is the same library enterprise, but you can see that there are a group of people who are bothered about books, purchase of books, dealing with suppliers and things like that. There are a group of people who are actually are issuing and return the books, returning and managing all that. So you can see that these are best modeled as some kind of a view of the entire database specifically meant for a particular section, like a book purchase section. Okay. So you can see that each of these sections views a portion of the entire data. For example, the books purchase section does not really bother about what is happening in the issue return section, they are not concerned with that. In a similar way, this issue returns section simply does not bother about what the book purchase people are doing. They have their own task cut out for them, so they keep doing. So there is little interaction between these two people, but all of them are interacting with the same enterprise database system. Now, how nice it would be to kind of give a view of the entire enterprise to this book section people separately, so that they can always deal with that part of the database only. Okay. And this is possible by what is called creating of these views. So we can create views which are nothing but actually virtual relations. Okay. You can also there may not actually be physical relations as part of the entire relational schema, but they will be some kind of a virtual relation. So it is as far as that group is concerned, that relation exists and they can interact with that that schema. So a part of the yeah, so that is what we actually mean by a view. A view describes an aspect of the database relevant to a particular group of users. Whereas the middle layer, which is the logical level schema, describes the entire database, but of course no physical level details are given at the logical level schema. Now this is of course useful because this is the as I was telling you that this is the most important schema because it gives the entire logical structure of the whole database. Now the physical structure of data in terms of, as I was telling you, record formats, file structures, indexes is given by the physical level schema. Now views are actually optional, you know, if your enterprise is not too big, and you know, if there are no easily identifiable user groups who want a particular, you know, aspect or a view of the database, then we can probably not create these views at all. Okay. So it is up to the all the modern relational database management systems, those software do provide this option of creating views, so that when a group of people want to take a restricted view of the entire database and then work with that, it is possible for us to enable that in the RDBMS. Okay. So the views are actually optional, and whereas the logical schema of course is essential, because that is the one that describes the entire database in its full form. And the physical level, most of the modern RDBMS software is actually completely hiding this physical level and giving even the database administrators giving a limited access to this physical layer. We will see why it is happening. You may want to actually have access to this physical layer as to how the data is actually stored on files, formats and things like that, if you want to tune the performance of the database. How is the database performing for certain kind of queries? If the database is taking unusually long time, you would like to go and investigate as to why it is happening, and then you may want to kind of tinker the data at the physical level. But the trend is to hide the details of the physical layer, but then of course when there will be ways in which you can actually access the physical level details. Okay. So I hope this three schema architecture is kind of clear. This is not to be confused with the data models that I was mentioning just a while ago. Okay. The three kind of data models that I was mentioning a while ago. So a while ago I mentioned conceptual level data models. Those conceptual level data models are different. Within relational data model, which is a representational level data model, we are now looking at the implementation of the relational data model. The RDBMS is the one that implements the relational data model, and while implementing the relational data model, it provides these kind of other facilities. One of them is the facility of creating views, okay, and sometimes it is very useful to have that facility. Now within this context, we traditionally describe two things called the physical. So let me take you to that slide. We call it physical data independence. Okay. The notion of physical data independence is important. What it basically says is that I should have the ability to modify my physical level schema without affecting the logical or the view level schemas. Okay. So, the database management system should be so architected such that I should have the ability to kind of modify the physical level details, like creating a new file, inserting it into the system, or taking a existing file and splitting it into two different files, etc. Such kind of modifications I should be able to do without affecting the logical and the view level descriptions of the levels of the schemas. Why would you require that? First thing is that once you describe this database, there are these what are called applications, okay, that will be built based on the assumption that the database has all these details. Okay. So, what exactly is an application? An application is a program written in a typical high level language like C, C++, Java, which uses SQL and interacts with the database and modifies the database, retrieves results from the database. Okay. So, these application programs are very important, and they are the ones that actually update the database, okay, and they in fact implement the day-to-day requirements of the enterprise for modification of the database. Okay. Now, supposing I have already set up a few application programs like this, I do not want to redevelop all those application programs, okay, because a new file has been added into the database, for some purpose. Okay. So, is it really possible? That is the kind of question that we are facing. So, if it is really possible, then we will call that as a physical data independence, and actually the 3 schema architecture enables this. How does it actually do that? And first of all, why do you have to do any modifications at the physical level? That I suppose should be clear, because we may want to do performance tuning. A certain application is running slow because it is trying to access the database in a certain way, and we now find that after looking through the application, we now find that if we have an additional file which stores a slightly different kind of records, then this application will now become faster, and so we would like to now add that file at the physical level. So, this is what is called performance tuning, and so because of this we should be able to we want to have this ability of doing a modification at the physical level, and ideally if you do this physical level modification, we would not like the logical and view level schemas to change. Okay. So, that is this ability that we are talking about. So, how is it achieved? It is achieved by ensuring that the modification we have done is in some sense localized, okay, and nothing comes free. So, how does it exactly come? It is achieved, this particular ability for physical data independence is achieved by suitably modifying the physical layer to logical layer mappings. Okay. Now, it is time to go back to this 3 schema architecture picture. I think I can just go back like this. Okay. So, I talked about this set of relations, and then I talked about this set of views. These are the ones that provide specified use view for a group of people, etc. Now is the time to talk about these boxes that are lying between these layers. So, this is a box that basically captures the logical level to physical level mappings. What basically it consists of is, okay, you have a relation, let us say R1, how is it actually implemented? What are the files? Where are the, remember that relation R1 is a set of tuples, it is a set of tuples. Okay. Each tuple consists of a bunch of values. Okay. So, it is a conceptual thing. Now, physically it has to be stored as each of those tuples might be stored as a single record, or each of those tuples might be stored as 2 records. We do not know exactly how it happens. Okay. So, there is a bunch of, there is probably one file or probably 2 files or 3 files that are kind of implementing this relation. Okay. So, that details are actually here. How is this relation mapped to actual physical files? Now, that detail is there in this particular layer box, and so if the basically this physical data independence is basically achieved by suitably modifying this mapping. If you create a new file now at the physical layer, then we will record the details, we will modify the details of this logical level physical level mapping suitably to reflect this new situation that we now have a new file, and so and so relation that was not using this particular file will now use that, etc. Whatever is the appropriate modification, we will have to record it here, and with that we will be able to, now any application that was using relation R1 will continue to work, because now the software, the RDBMS package can, while servicing the request for relation R1, will go through these mappings, the new mappings, and then look up the appropriate files. Okay. So, that is how logical physical data independence is achieved. In a similar spirit, we have, okay. So, another similar notion is this notion of logical data independence. So, the ability to change the logical level schema without affecting the view level schemas and the application programs is what is called logical data independence. Now, why do you need to do this in the first place? For example, slightly adding a new attribute to some relation, because the designers have now realized that they also need to keep track of this new attribute which was not earlier thought of, etc. Now, that has to be added, and certain attribute has to be deleted, let us say. So, if these requirements come, then how do we handle them? That is the thing that we are talking about. So, of course, if you add a new attribute, then to some relation, then what we would like to do is that the situation we like is that there should be no need to change the programs or the views that do not require to use this new attribute. Obviously, things that want to use this new attribute will have to be changed, because this is what has come into picture. Okay. So, those things that are not using this new attribute can continue to be used as they are. In a similar way, if we delete an attribute, all those programs that use the uh, remaining data, there should be no need for changing them, whereas the ones that are using this particular deleted attribute obviously has to be changed. So, how do we achieve this logical data independence? Again it is the views which are on the top layer again are defined in terms of the lower level relations. Okay. As I was briefly mentioning earlier, views are basically nothing but virtual relations. So, those views would be defined in terms of the actual relations that are there at the logical layer. We will see how exactly views are to be defined when we go into the relational data model in detail. So, the logical data independence is achieved by looking at the view level to logical level mapping and then suitably modifying that mapping, we will be able to achieve this logical data independence. Okay. So, are there any questions on this 3 schema architecture? It's a kind of a abstraction, layers of abstraction that are provided within the RDBMS package, the RDBMS system. Of course, if you look at some RDBMSs, they may not provide a view, the ability to create views. Okay. So, they kind of implemented the RDBMS in a partial manner. They think that okay, the users of their RDBMS may not really require views and things like that. They are not probably handling such enterprises. So, they may optionally not provide that facility. But the ability to create views is part of SQL standard, and so any RDBMS package has to implement the SQL standard, and so it should be possible, it should be available. Okay. Now, let us look at the development process of a database system. How exactly we are going to do the entire development of a typical database. Okay. Okay. First thing is we have to collect the requirements. We have to sit with the users, end users of this information system and collect our requirements. Now, for this there are two kinds of things that we have to collect. First thing is what is called the data model, requirements. That means, what are the various pieces of data to be stored and their interrelationships, this information. And this is typically presented using a conceptual data model like a ER model. ER model is entity relationship model. You also have some alternatives actually at the conceptual level model, which is this UML. I am sure you would have heard about UML also, Unified Modeling Language. Unified Modeling Language. UML is more used when you focus on large scale software development, whereas in the database world the entity relationship model is more popular. Both of them are conceptual level data models. So, these data model requirements are presented in the form of a ER model, and then there is what is called the functional requirements from the end users that you have to collect. Functional requirements are what are the various kinds of operations that need to be performed as part of the running of the enterprise. Like for example, in focusing on the library database system, they routinely have to do these activities, right? Acquiring a new book, enrolling a new user, new students come into picture, so they have to enroll new users, issuing a book to the user, recording the return of the book from a user. All these are their functional requirements. They have to have these things. Now, each of these functional requirements will translate to an application program. An application program. The application program is written in some high level language like Java or C++, and it typically would have some graphical user interface and things like that, and it collects whatever parameters it wants to collect from the end users, and then interacts with the database server through SQL and do the appropriate modifications in the database server and then get back to the end user. So, we will see how exactly application programs have to be developed much later in the course, but these are the application program requirements. These are functional requirements. So, these are the two kinds of requirements that we will need to collect before we start designing a database. Now, once the data model requirements are collected, you would typically represent in a entity relationship model, and this model we will see more details about this model in the next module. Basically, it also has a diagrammatic representation. So, we draw out that diagram for the information system, and then the main aim here is to ensure that we have collected the correct requirements, and the end user also understands what exactly he wants. Okay. So, that is the requirements collection phase. This is a very important phase. Then in the next step, we will convert the data model into a representational data model, which is the relational data model. So, whatever is the information that we collected as per the requirements of the database, we will internally have to, we will have to convert that into the relational data model and choose an RDBMS system and then create the database. So, we will study as to how exactly one has to convert the information that is there in the conceptual data model into the representational data model when we study both these models in detail, and then convert the functional requirements into application programs in high level language that typically use what is called embedded SQL. So, we will have to see how we can embed SQL into a high level programs. They typically use embedded SQL to interact with the database and actually carry out the required tasks. So, these are the various steps that are involved in the development process of a database system.